Hey, all, welcome to Challenge Accepted. I am Frank, and today I'm joined by Jonathan.
Hey, yo, what's going on?
We are at the start of season 2, and we're talking about Halo today. I want to make sure to let you guys know that Thomas will be back very shortly. We have Jonathan filling in for him while Thomas is on the mend. So we're happy to have you here, Jonathan.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, you've been on the show before. I know we talked about Voyager, because we always talk about Voyager.
Always.
So I know you're on for that one. There's a couple we've been on.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know I've done a few Challenge Accepted, and they're always fun. They're like deep dives of specific topics that we would typically talk about on Geek Freaks anyways.
Yeah. So this one we're going to be talking about Halo. And before we get diving into the show too much, let's talk about you and me as video game players, because I think there's a lot of people who are watching the show going from the video game. And I can't imagine there's somebody watching this that's not a video game player. So explain our experience with Halo, the game.
Well, I mean, I think the game came out at a good time for us. We were obviously the target audience because we were young teens when Halo was first, created. So we played through every version of Halo that came out, except for the newest one. We haven't played together. You'd mentioned that before too, that we should definitely get together. But we've played all the other iterations of Halo together, first release and play through the whole campaign, trying to, 100% the game whenever we could. So, we're pretty thorough Halo fans, you could say.
I would say in the early days, we were big on the multiplayer as well. Like in this episode, they mentioned Sanctuary, and it's like, oh, that's from Halo 2. I remember that map,
Yeah.
So nowadays, I'm not so much about the multiplayer. I will play when it first comes out, of course, like everybody else does. But there are people who still play hardcore on those things. Definitely Halo Infinite. You should get on. There's a grappling hook in this first episode, and I was like, oh, that's from Halo Infinite. I'm so happy to see that. It's good that they're giving that one a nod. Okay, so we have our knowledge. You and me, we play every one of the campaigns together except for one. But yeah, Reach, ODST2, they're such good stories. So we're excited to get into this. Let's go ahead and start reviewing the show itself. And we're going to start with you doing our rundown on this. But instead of you doing a recap of everything that necessarily happened in these episodes, it would be best if you kind of showed us where all these characters are. That way, when new people are coming in, they know where to start.
Yeah, okay.
You got 2 minutes. You ready to go?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
we'll see if I can fill 2 minutes.
If you can't, let me know. Then I'll edit it around and we'll look good.
Nice.
It'll be fun.
Stretch my words. Okay.
All right,
so
go.
We see Master Chief. He's still struggling mentally. We did see, I think it was in the end of the previous season, he had Cortana. I think she took over, but then she was removed from his brain. So we have inklings that maybe some of her remains in there, but we're not really sure. But he's kind of zoning out and stuff. He sees the elites, the Covenant on this planet, and then he also sees what's her name, McKee is still there, which she was supposed to be dead. So there's this whole kind of, he thinks he might be going crazy, but he also might be seeing an active threat that he's trying to alert everybody to. Anyways, the Covenant ended up glassing that planet that he was on and stuff. So they had to evacuate. But then he's trying to prep his team, like Silver Team. He's trying to get them ready for this big war. He thinks the Covenant were training. They were going down to that planet, preparing to have to attack. And so he's like, well, shit, whatever they're training for, we need to train as well. We need to be ready because they got a big offensive they're planning. So he's training his guys. He's pushing them a little too hard. They've removed their pellets. So they're a little, they're dealing with feeling a little different, having emotions again and stuff like that. But they're trying to push through it and be strong. We see Halsey again. She's not dead. She is alive, and it's she's in a simulation, and so she's trying to figure out where she is and potentially find a way to get out of there or something like that. She has a young lady that will come in and sit with her and play with her, kind of interact with her a little bit. But she realizes that she starts questioning her, trying to find a way out. Finds out
25 seconds left.
Oh God. Okay. Girl dies. She's a clone. Oh, I know. So she keeps repeating the same thing, trying to get information on where she's at. We see Soren, who's the guy that was a former Spartan, who is now a pirate. He buys a kid pretty much who has information on where Halsey. Oh, damn. Yeah, 2 minutes is less than I thought.
It goes by quick.
Once I get talking, I realize I do remember more of this episode. I just got to start pouring it out,
which is good because it freshes everybody up.
Yeah.
So we do have a lot of our old characters back. We thought we weren't going to have Quan back, but she is back too. They kind of dropped her on us on the last moment.
But they did very much downplay her. She's a very small role so far in these 2 episodes. So I think
Yeah.
that was a lot of people's concern is she took up, a third of the story or so from last season. And yeah, she's just kind of a blip on the radar, which I I, I do kind of like. I understand people's complaints about her. I do kind of like that they didn't just cut her out completely, because that would be
That's fair.
drastic, dramatic, unnecessary. People would be like, what happened to that thread that you just didn't complete? So still have her, maybe building a rebel force in the background or something like that. Yeah, I'm glad they
I think
saw
they're
her.
replacing that aspect of the show, that corner, that one third with Soren a little bit more,
Yeah.
which I think is a much more interesting character. This like, pirate king that's fallen, missing a step now, and all of a sudden is captured.
Yeah.
That to me is a lot more interesting. I think.
Yeah, so I didn't get to that part in the recap, but he ended up getting captured by the Marines, or
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're supposed to believe, anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, now he's under arrest, and yeah, he's such a cool character. We like that he kind of feels like that Han Solo kind of, a pirate, space pirate, but he has kind of that moral code that comes from being a Spartan. And he's trying to find Halsey, which I think, he kind of knows there's something bigger going on out there. And she's one of the few that he thinks either will have more information, or just possibly he can trust her. So I want him to get free. I want him to find her and reunite with Master Chief, and they all kind of team up to fight the Covenant. And then they realize what the Covenant's actually afraid of. And then everybody, bands together to fight a bigger bad.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, there's some layers there, and I want to get into all these layers, but let's go one layer at a time here. The first layer I want to get into, because there's going to be a lot of people who they have this, like, there's a lot of negative press out there for this from the fans. Let's address that, because I want to get past that and acknowledge it too.
Yeah.
So two of the big things first was Kwan's character took up too much of the screen. We talked about that. The other thing is that Master Chief is always taking off his helmet. What are your thoughts on that, on that character taking his helmet off all the time?
Yeah, I think it's great, because we actually talked about this more on Geek Freaks. If you guys want to watch our latest episode, we dive into it also there. And I also, when I think back to it, I think I was too negative about the show then, because watching the recap, I was like, man, that was such a good show. But we've already talked about it a little bit, but when you're playing the game, you are in control. You have the joysticks, you're throwing the grenades, you're stealing the banshees, you're doing it all yourself. Yeah. And so it is that to me is the main reason why you don't see your character's face, is you are the character, you insert yourself into it, and you feel so much more connected, being that you don't have to match his skin tone or have the same tattoos he has or whatever. There's no face there to relate to, so you can just put yours on. And in the but in the live action version, you don't have that control. You're watching him make his own decisions. So like you would another TV show or movie, the creators need you to relate and connect to the character. They can't do that through a helmet. Not very well anyways. I mean, it would take a lot longer to be relatable. So yeah, the storytelling medium is different. The story has to be a little bit different. And to make that connection, they take off his helmet. I think they casted well for it. I think they're doing a good job mixing the two with helmet on and off. So I think they're doing a great job with it. People have the right to complain. I get people are going to complain about everything, but if you're I'm a fan of the game. I like the show regardless. So I think they're doing a good job.
And I really think people should go in with an open mind. You don't hear these complaints about the books. The books are widely loved. The books also are a character named John, who is a Master Chief. You're not hearing or reading the books as in like, then you pick up the gun and you go shooting. No, you hear about Master Chief doing it. It's the same thing. It's just a different medium. And so, yeah, I think we just need to keep an open mind about it. I think Pablo Schreiber did a really good job too when he was talking about this, saying he is Master Chief, saying this isn't the game. This is our interpretation of the world. Enjoy it. There are other interpretations of the world, comic books and books and whatnot. And so if you don't like it, that's fine, but this is our show. And so see what it is. So I think you got to approach it like that. And if there's, parts of the game you see in there, like I've been seeing, you're like, oh, that's cool. And then if you're like, oh, that's not how it's done in the game, you could definitely say like I think it works better in the game, but to negate the entire thing because he's taking his helmet off, to me, just seems childish. So, yeah.
And the actor, I'm surprised he's been doing really good, because I went into this expecting I might hate him a little bit, because the porn stash character he played on Orange is the New Black was just obviously written to be a villain. And so that was the only thing I knew him from, really, the only big role. So him being in this show, he's just done so good. That completely changed my perspective of, the actor based on the characters he's played. So yeah, I think he's been doing great.
You know his brother though, don't you? Leah Schreiber.
I don't know.
He is Sabretooth versus Wolverine.
Oh,
He's Sabretooth.
okay. Yeah.
He's in a bunch of stuff. He's in so much stuff. So I'll send pictures to you afterwards.
Nice.
So going into the show then, what is your overall opinion of these first two episodes? I'll start off with, I think that there's a lot of starting in this first two episodes, and it wasn't a lot of progression. So it kind of felt like it was not very satisfying because we had so much just starting stories up. Like a great example is Halsey. You didn't really progress much in there. I want to see Halsey really start to progress in there. But we just had two episodes back to back that were kind of like, okay, we get it. She's in a room. She's testing out these bots. It's very much a story from Westworld where they're testing the bots against the person who's the expert at making them to make the bots better. It's a Westworld story that was used in that show. But let's move forward. And the action scenes in this series, I mean, are the best. They are so freaking good. The fact that Paramount can pull off that CGI with their budget blows my mind away, man. When those ships are like rising up in the fog, oh my God.
Right.
Looks so good.
Like I'm ready to see some battles with Master Chief jumping onto a Banshee mid-flight and stuff like that. Yes. Like it's coming. There's going to be all that, but it's so far, it's stunning visuals. Like you're saying, the story feels like it kind of jumps around a lot, but we got to be patient. I think the third and fourth episode will really kind of spread those stories out and make some progress in them. There's one complaint I do have is there's several scenes that seem too dark. And at first I thought it's because I was watching this on my
right?
on
Not
my phone,
like murdering kids.
Oh no, yeah, lighting was, and I think there's a good chance that's to help with a CGI budget. Like if you have a few scenes that are going to be like, whoa, these are going to be really heavy CGI, it's going to take a lot to do, we'll just make these ones darker. Well, then you can't have the ones before it and after it daylight. So I think they kind of made several scenes darker just to kind of help bring that down to make it a smoother transition between lighting.
That fog helped out that army of elites that were up on top of that cliff. I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like I wish they didn't have to use a fog, but it did look cool. So I really don't have, of course, I have complaints, but not very much complaints. This has been really good, and so far I'm very hopeful that this is going to be even better than season one.
I think what they're doing too is we get these defined lines of stories, right? So I think in the first one we had maybe three main stories. If you think Halsey, Master Chief, and Quan, this one feels like we might have more. We might have Master Chief, James, which is the new guy that's replaced Halsey. We have Halsey's story.
Ackerson.
And they'll intersect each other and come back from each other and stuff like that. But it feels like we're going to follow these characters a little more divided. Even within Master Chief's crew, even within Silver Team, we're going to be following Kai a little bit more by herself. And
you know what I like?
Getting her own story.
I liked seeing Master Chief when he's wearing a hood and he's like moving in the city, and he finds was Admiral Margaret.
Oh yes.
Margaret,
Margaret. Yeah.
Yeah, and they she's kind of giving him like a secret mission. It's like it gives me kind of those Andor vibes too, but it feels cool. I like that kind of dark secret. I don't know how to describe it, but
Halo 2 is the first Halo that has anything to do with Earth. I think it was Halo 2. Yeah, it was Halo 2 because I remember the marketing for that. And when you're like going through those streets and they feel like crowded, the building's a little bit too tall and a little bit overhanging. It was cool to see them capture that in the show. So I like that, and I like when we could get little pieces that were like, oh, I recognize this structure, this architecture from the show, from the game. Like that's the kind of tie-ins I really want. So they did that definitely with that, we had some Cortana, but it was almost hinted at. And I think Cortana, I mean, Daniel literally was like, I'm not going to play the new Halo game because Cortana's not in it. It's like, Cortana, like, spoiler alert, guys, for Halo Infinite, Cortana's clone is in it, and Cortana is too in a way. You have to just watch it. Do you think Cortana is a very vital character for them establishing Master Chief?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. If they introduce her in the story, then I think they got to continue with her interaction with Master Chief. I think the best Master Chief we'll have is Master Chief with Cortana. Yeah. So I think at some point he's going to get her back, and he'll be, fighting the Covenant, or eventually, the big bad coming next, with her supporting him. Their team. So whether he'll still have his team, the silver team, or not. I don't know, because that would be kind of interesting if they get separated and he has Cortana and he's trying to get them back, or they all get wiped out or something like that. But yeah, I definitely think they showed her. They have her in the story. They have to, that gun has to go off. They got to bring her to meet with Master Chief again. Yeah.
I will say we had the peasants or whatever they were trying to save in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The leader was like, do you have any family? Do you have a mother? Do you have a child? Stuff like that. And Master Chief, in his very much Master Chief way, didn't answer. But I think that's the point of the Silver Team right now and Cortana in the future. Mm-hmm. Cortana is the only family that Master Chief has. Halsey to a degree. But really, when you're out there alone and you're on those rings, that's who you have is Cortana. And that's your family. And that's who you fight for a lot of times. You're fighting to get back to Cortana. That's a lot of motivation for a lot of the later games. And I think that's what they're going to establish eventually. But I think for them to do that, there's two things they had to do. I think they had to set up Silver Team to be his temporary family. Mm-hmm. And we might see that degrade, because I think we had a little hint that Kai might say, Master Chief's losing it to James. You need to take care of him. Because James went to her like, hey, is he losing a step? And she's like, no, he's not. He's perfect. But then also like he's pushing Riz too hard. So then it's like, okay, so that might be a way to separate Master Chief from his current family, to find that real family piece that he gets in Cortana, because that's such a vital part of the motivation for Master Chief. Is he has to save humanity, but he will risk his body 10 times over to save Cortana and AI.
And we see that in most of the games. So I think you're right, and it would be an interesting way. Is not that his family is destroyed, but they're turned against him, and so it's him and Cortana trying to survive and get away from UNSC. And to go take on this fight on their own.
Because in Halo 5, I want to say, is when he's being hunted down because of the whole Cortana thing. And I think he does have a team in that one, but a lot of the team that's hunting him down is also his team from before. So that would be a really good way to like kind of use some of that story and some of those elements where all of a sudden you have like this team that's hunting him the whole time and it's his team. And there's times they'll like let him escape or whatever. That would be a really good element to the show.
Yeah.
Actually, if they're led by Soren, how cool would that be?
Yeah. But I think Soren would be on his side in that fight.
You're right. You're 100% right.
UNSC turns on him, but it'd be cool to see him like outrunning them and outgunning them, and then he knows how they think, so he would set traps by like, oh, she can't make this jump, and so he'd set a trap that makes the cliff fall short or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of these other characters here too. Soren's character, this fallen pirate king. What do we see happening to his character? Do you think they're going to try to make him a Spartan again? Obviously, he doesn't want to.
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine they have some kind of redemption arc going with him, because he's left the Spartans, became a pirate. So it's, he's like doing shady deals or whatever. His wife or girlfriend, whatever's telling him like, hey, you've lost the respect of the other pirates. So they're not afraid of you anymore. You need to step it up and be a man, take control or something. And then he gets captured. So he was doing that. He's like, I think he was trying to make it look like he's doing that, but he was actually pursuing Halsey. But I think we're going to see that he can kind of leave that pirate life behind and go back, like we're saying, hopefully reunite with Master Chief. And then he's going to find the purpose that he's looking for, the bigger cause that he wants to fight for, which Master Chief is going to tell him like, hey, there's the vision I saw. There's this bigger enemy that nobody sees coming. And, Soren would probably say like, oh, well, we can flee and we'll get to, the last planet in the solar system, whatever, we'll be safe. And he's like, no planet in the solar system, no planet in the galaxy will be safe. This is a threat that nobody can avoid. We got to band together. And then, so maybe I
like that idea, because his wife is also kind of looking for an out on the pirate life. So it would make sense that he would then come to it while the wife is also looking for him. And they would like, boom, okay, we're going to fight for this cause. And we've seen a lot of people that fight on the side of Master Chief that are not necessarily tied to the Marines. And so that's good use. We also have the elites, which I thought was interesting that they only showed elites on that cliff top, that really epic fight scene, because we've seen grunts and stuff like that in the background, but elites definitely seems to be like the main thing. I believe the reason they're doing that is because it might be easier to convey for those who are not Halo players. If you had multiple, I mean, it almost sounds this is very much
you want the monsters to be clear and transparent. Who's the bad guys?
Also, if you have one side that has like a coalition of different people that came together, let's hunt them all down. Like it also kind of sounds like, oh, we're the racist people because they actually figured out how to work together and we didn't. You know, it's a horde versus alliance thing from WoW.
I think that the most likely reason that it was only elites there is Master Chief is right, and that is a training exercise.
Yes.
And so they have a squadron of elites with the swords. They weren't out there with their blasters or any other weapons, right? They're just wielding the swords. Like, hey, if we are in hand-to-hand combat in the fog and we need to take out, very quietly or whatever, take out, a bunch of soldiers, this is how we would go about it. So, and some of them die. This is training and, they don't all go back. But yeah, I think it makes sense to me that that's why it would be only elites up there.
I'm almost positive the swords work better on the Flood than other things do. Because what I'm thinking is eventually going to happen is we're going to find out, like if I were writing this, we're going to find out that what they're actually working for, like even Master Chief is wrong. He thinks that they're trying to build up this invasion for Earth, and they're like, no, they're glassing the planets because, and I think you mentioned this too, like to exterminate what they can of the Flood.
Yeah.
We learn later on in the games that the Halos, that's what their job is. The Halos' job is to kill Flood. So they try to activate those, but then also they learn that they'll kill all life as well.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to eventually learn that that's what the elites are doing.
And they probably know there's no Flood on this planet, but when one spore lands on this planet, anything living here will become Flood. So we need to glass the whole planet. It makes it literally uninhabitable by anything. So we don't have to worry that it's going to become infected. It's already been sanitized before the Flood can contaminate it. But yeah, that makes sense. That's what they're training for. I like that.
Because I think that would be a fun turn for those who are not familiar with the game, and those who are familiar with the game are anxious for it, because that was in the game itself. It was such a fun turn in the game where it was this shooter action adventure. You're fighting against aliens. They have green blood. It's so cool. Then suddenly, like, oh snap, this is a horror game. Yeah. There's even that level where you kind of like going through this like little encampment, and it's like, oh, there's this stuff growing on the sides, and now you're alone with all of this overgrown stuff. And you're seeing just elites getting eaten up by the Flood, and you're like, oh, this is a horror game out of nowhere. So that would be cool for the show to take that turn. When
you see the soldier that's like barely walking and he's like impregnated with like 50 Flood little suckers or whatever you call them, and then he bursts and they go scurrying everywhere. And oh shit, yeah, I can't outgun this. I need to run, find a way out, burn my way through just to get off this planet or off this ring. But yeah, that's pretty.
Then you're like, glass it.
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
sense at that point.
Kill everything. Yeah.
Which is just such a freaking cool verb to invent. Glassing a planet. That is so badass.
Right? Who needs a Death Star? We're going to glass planets instead.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Anything else we need to make sure to mention about this episode? The whole season.
I think we've covered just about everything. Can't think of any good characters we haven't really touched on.
The main thing I wanted to hit on is the fact that I think that they're training for the Flood. The Halsey storyline, I think they're just perfecting the AI, and that'll eventually probably get back to Cortana. One thing I do want to mention actually is we had a little snippet of how people perceive the Spartans early on. When the villagers are talking to the Marines, and then Master Chief and the other one comes in. I forget I think it might have been Riz. They're talking to them, and I noticed that, okay, so for the villagers, they see them as like a monster. Soulless, no religion, no family, monsters. The Marines, the way they were talking to them, the ones that were there in the village, was very much like, this is the weapon. This is a tool that we deploy this tool. Yeah. And then we see that while that's going on, we see that the two Spartans that are up sniping, the way they're talking is like, we're babysitting these idiot Marines that are weak and don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And then when Master Chief goes up and saves that one Marine up on the cliff with all the Spartans, that up there, when they first greet Master Chief, it was much like a savior. And that's the version. I like how we go through these different versions of perceptions of the Spartans, and that version is the version you feel like as a master when you're playing the Spartans, is that one. And so it's good that like they went through like the perceived world around you, and then you're like, that's who I am, is that person.
And I feel like we saw that same kind of multiple perspectives in the first couple episodes of season 1, when there's that attack at Magical, and we're seeing, how, these guys are just monsters coming to destroy us. And it's like, well, no, I was like, it's just a political scandal, and they're just trying to take what resources they can. It's like, but these guys are our heroes. It's like, they're just soldiers. Like, you get every angle of it, and it's really cool tool and storytelling to show, the various perspectives of it. I like it.
And no one side is wrong. I mean, if the pallets are in those guys, then pallets? I forget what they're called. What is it called?
Pellets?
Pellets?
Pallets? I don't know.
Yeah, if they're in them though, they have no like real emotion. So you definitely see that, like, yeah, they are kind of like monsters. They're these emotionless, beefed up monsters. So
Yeah.
no perception is wrong with them, but it felt good to see that last one. Where I was like, finally, I've seen that Marine's face before when you go in on Reach or something like that. Oh, Reach is such a sad one, but you go into Reach and you save it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we'll get. Maybe they'll end this season with the Reach story.
Oh, but they can't do that to Master Chief.
No, but they're setting up like Riz and stuff like that to be this character that's hurt. And could you imagine, like, she gets it to the end and then she's just like, "You guys escape," and I'm already hurt. I'm not gonna survive anymore. And she's just got this little pistol.
Or Soren, I could see them doing that. Soren comes back to be
don't do it to Soren.
Yeah. And they could build him back up just to have him go out that way. Man.
God, I love these games.
Yeah. Right.
Oh shoot! All right, guys, that's the first one. We're gonna be reviewing these each week. We have a new challenge coming up. Thomas is gonna be back for that one. I'll just tell you right now, it's 51st Date. So we obviously we couldn't just challenge each other. We had to coincide, work on one together, and it's like, let's do a romantic comedy for Valentine's Day. And it's like the only romantic comedy I think I've ever seen or cared about is 51st Dates. Yeah. And he's Hawaiian, so I'm gonna ask him all kinds of questions like, is that real? Are they really like that? And if they're not, then don't tell me, because I want to be Adam Sandler so bad.
And I agree. And like, not only is it a good rom-com, but it's like the most rewatchable, I think.
Oh, very much
romantic comedy movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you get up every morning and you put that VHS in, and it's 51st Dates.
Yeah, and just watch that over. Then you start the rest of your life.
Yeah. Oh God. Nice. All right, guys. Thank you again for joining us, Jonathan.
Oh yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.